Hey y'all, I just wanted to come on here and share something brief. So, it was a season. I'm kind of trying to navigate out of that season now, where I was going through a situation where I just was like, God had to kind of like remind me of certain things and situations, right? And I was listening to a podcast where it just rebirthed that aspect and that thought back into my mind again, right? And it comes a point in time where you have to sit back and check yourself and really be intimate, right? Intimate with God, intimate with your thoughts, intimate with who you truly are, right? So I was battling with things where I was just like, I was acting out of a different mindset, right? And not really applying the scripture Romans 12:2 about not being formed to this world, right? So I was going through a time where this had to be a few months back. No, this is a year ago, because I've talked about this in my book. And so recently, just going through things and trying to die to my flesh, letting my emotions not overgo, and up trump what God says, right? And to not get so hooked on the religious way and not get so hooked on different things. And what I'm trying to say is, I was functioning in a point in time where I felt like my works was good enough to get me what I need. Like, I felt like my works is why I felt like God should be blessing me, why God should be doing things, why God should be responding to my cries and responding to me praying and worshiping and all these things, right? So when God deals with me, he checks me, right? And it's like a raw punch, like a gut punch, right? And he had to just put me in my place and be like, your works, it really doesn't matter. Like, let me paraphrase this. Not that your works matter, but your works, like, our works don't earn his love. That he already loved us right where we at. That Jesus died before we was yet even sinners. So just keeping that in mind. Like, I love you regardless if you're going to serve. I love you regardless if you're going to make these videos. Like, I love you regardless if you're going to fast. I love you regardless if you're going to sacrifice and give up these things. Like, don't do anything out of trying to prove my love to you and to get a good job, because we all want to please God. We all want to do things to get that well done, my good and faithful servant. But don't get caught up on, I have to do these things for God to love him, to love me. And he already loved us right where we at. And I remember a time, because I dropped my book this year in April. So last year when I was finishing up writing my book, right, I was, I don't know when I said this to God. Probably was a year prior to that, or I don't know, I can't remember. But I was just like, God, I was fussing at him. Like, I ain't gonna, this is when you have a true, authentic relationship with God, right? A lot of people says, you can't question God, you can't this and that. It's a difference between questioning him or asking him questions. We can ask him questions. He says to ask, right? So I was like, God, and I'm mad. I'm like, I did this, I did that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm blah, blah. Like, I'm really going ham. Like, when I'm angry and I'm upset, I give God my rawness. And that's why our relationship is so authentic, because I ain't the type to be saying like, oh, I don't do this with God. No, I was yelling, I was mad, I was angry. And I said, why this, why that, why? And so gentle, and like a soft, gentle whisper voice in my spirit, God said, I never asked you to do any of those things. All I ever asked you to do was just to be my daughter. And when he said that to me, I bawled. I was crying. Was I on the floor, God? Can't remember, but probably I was. I was bawling, I was weeping, I was crying. And the reason why I was crying, right, is because he asked me to just be his daughter. And for me, I didn't know how to be a daughter to a father figure. My dad passed when I was 2 years old. I never had a physical father and daughter relationship with a male that was like deep, on a deep level, like an intimate level. It was always just like they were there or they were around or things like that, right? So I never had that being younger and growing up. So I didn't know how to be a daughter. And that's what broke me the most, because I'm doing all these things to please him. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. He was like, I never asked you to do those things. I only asked you to be my daughter. And I was crying because I didn't know how. What does that look like to be a daughter of a father figure? Because I never had that. I never had nobody I could depend on to help me. Whether if it was anything, physically, emotionally, financially, whatever. I never had that. I never had that father who come pick me up and take me out on a date or take me somewhere or do things with me. Like, I never had that. So how do you be a daughter? And he had to teach me how to be a daughter. In the relationship that I have with him now, like, I would not trade it for nothing in the world. That's why when you see me writing or posting or doing this and that, like, this is a lifestyle for me. Like, I'm in love with him. I'm in love with Jesus. I'm in love with God. And it's not a love that's like a romantic. It's just a agape love. Like, I love him. Why? Because he loved me. He loved me more than I love him. And it just comes a time where it's just like, I had to sit on that. Because it was a reality check. Like, I asked you to be a daughter, but I didn't know how. So I said, teach me how to be a daughter. I didn't know how to submit under a male or father figure and let him do things that dad's supposed to do. Like, I didn't know how to do it. And he taught me. So really ponder and really meditate on that scripture, Romans chapter 12 verse 2, where it talks about to not be conformed to the custom and the behaviors of this world, but be transformed by renewing your mind, to transform the way you think, right? And I'm getting to that because me trying to work my way for him to love me doing things to prove him like God's going to really love me if I do this, if he's going to really reward me if I do this. And he said, I'm going to reward you regardless because you're my daughter. I'm going to reward you regardless. I'm going to give you things regardless. I'm going to bless you regardless because you are my daughter. And the same thing if you got kids with our kids. We want them to do right. We want them to do things. We want to be proud of them, but they don't have to work there for us to love them unconditionally. That is already there. That, like, I don't know for other people, but for me, I love my kids right where they at. I would still break my neck and do all these things regardless of how many times they mess up because they're my kids. It's the same thing how God looks at us, right? So don't be conformed to how does the world think? The world thinks you have to work and bust your butt to work hard just to get nice things and to do all these things to seem like they're popular and popping, and to work yourself into a premature death, right? To work yourself up to a promotion, and God says, I can remove you from the back to the front. So let's transform the way we think. Society says if you're rich and you have all these things, that's the goal, right? But people are committing suicide and empty inside. That they're chasing these meaningless things that's going to pass away when we leave this earth. So transform the way we think. Don't follow the custom and behavior of this world. Get a relationship with God. Ask them questions that you want to ask. He'll either reveal them to you or he'll lead you to somebody who will reveal them to you and give you the answer that you were looking for. Just trust him and go in and go all like this. We're finna approach a new year. Start now and just give him all of you.